Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Through a Therapist's Eyes. This is Chris Gazdick, and you are who?
Craig Graves.
I gotta tell you, man, audience, you can't see us. We'll get on Facebook Live someday, but usually you don't have your spectacles on. And he's sitting here with his spectacles a little bit ago, and I looked at him and I'm like, my God, Craig looks like a radio guy.
Well, I'm definitely not a radio guy. And I tell you, man, my short-term vision has gone downhill fast.
It's happening to me, too.
Good grief.
It is happening to me, too. So welcome to Through a Therapist's Eyes, where we invite you to see the world through the lens of a real mental health and substance abuse therapist. The goal is to create emotional growth through the medium of this podcast. Please be aware that this is not a delivery of therapy service in any way, and we are looking for more feedback and discussion on the website throughatherapisteyes.com, which I believe, Craig, is starting to happen more regularly, right?
Yeah, we are definitely getting some more feedback and engagement now, and it's a good thing.
Our sponsoring agency, Metrolina Psychotherapy, it is located in Belmont, North Carolina, serving adolescents, children, adults, couples, doing marital counseling, individual counseling, and all of that. Since 2001, they strive with you to create emotional growth. Check them out at metpsych.com and phone number 704-461-8253. So we have what I believe to be a pretty powerful show today for you on a really important topic of domestic violence. And I want to put a little, warning out there or a notice right in the get-go.
Like a little disclaimer?
No, not even a disclaimer, just a notice to you if you're driving in the car with kids and that kind of thing. We did that when we had Aaron Clark on the show, just to kind of let people know we've got a tough topic, and we'll be talking frankly about it with domestic violence, which includes obvious topics that little young kiddos and stuff in the car might not want to expose them to. So that's I don't know, is that a disclaimer? What is that?
I don't know, but it's a warning.
Yeah.
I think people get it.
Cool. Yeah. So welcome to Miss MJ. Hello, and how are you this evening?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad that you made it through with the car trouble. We had fluids and stuff going on or something, I think, right?
I think it works with the whole technology thing. I'm one of those, I can walk past cash registers and they'll just stop running, so I'm used to it.
Which episode was that, Craig?
I think it was number 9, Technology Anxiety.
I tell you what, some of these shows definitely bleed together.
Make sure you check that one out.
I need to.
Yeah, so first of all, above all and everything, I totally appreciate you being here with us tonight. I feel like it's a courageous act, an absolute big step, a big deal, and I applaud you very much for that. We want to get some words out about domestic violence, and I know that that's something that's really you're
Sure.
passionate about.
Sure, yep.
So I'm very appreciative of that, and the courageous willingness to be able to share some of your story.
You're welcome. I'll see if I can make it through.
And we'll stop if need be, and I know and recognize that it's a tough reality to deal with.
I appreciate that.
How long have you been? I guess what would be a way to put it? Free from the turmoil that you were in now. Like how long have you been on the other side of this?
October 14, 2016. So
right.
Just over 2 years.
You got the date.
I got the date. That was my freedom date.
Is that the way you call it, a freedom
Yes.
date? That's a pretty neat way to refer to it. That's strong. Freedom date of 2 years ago. Well, as much as you're able to share for the purpose of people kind of understanding what you've been through, what domestic violence is, some of what it isn't, that's really what I think we want to accomplish. And right from the get-go in the freedom date having happened, you're doing better now. And I think part of what I want to point out for people that are listening is the hope that really gets created by, like, dude, sister, you were in it, you got the freedom from it,
Yeah.
and what are you doing now?
Yep. Okay. So a little bit about it. The interesting thing is I never really thought I was experiencing anything unusual. It happens, it can happen, at least for me, it was over a longer period of time. So I was married about 6 years. And even though it started the day of our marriage, it's kind of subliminal.
Right.
So it happens over time. And there are so many reasons why you stay. And a lot of people don't understand why you would. Part
Yeah,
of
that
my
was one of the
reasoning,
questions I was going to
yeah,
kind of get at, because people were kind of like, what is the deal? Yeah.
too much. There's so much involved with staying. For me, it was probably a love of God that I didn't want to disappoint him. I got married in front of God, and I wanted to make it a true commitment.
For life, right?
For life.
Yeah, that's the commitment.
Yep. So, with having met my spouse in Bible college, and we had plans on having a church. He was a prayer minister, and he was a third-year pastoral track student. I only went for 2 years. We were going to have a church, and we were going to, spread the word and the love. And well, he never even prayed with me. I couldn't even talk about scriptural ideas or revelation knowledge or anything like that, because he would just shut me down, saying, that has no relevance on anything we're talking about. I have no idea what you're trying to say.
So again, let me get this right. Religion and religious beliefs and teachings have no relevance in life.
Well,
Yeah.
there was, and I lived in a perpetual state of hope that something would change, even up until the day I left. I was like, maybe he'll just change, and he'll like actually care about me.
Yeah.
So the strange thing is, if he had ever hit me, I would have known to have left. I had that purpose in my heart that no man has the right to hit me.
So let me make a point there, because I think that's something that's, I don't even know that I want to say unique, but is a very important and powerful part of what sounds like your story. And thank you for sharing it on your website. More on that in a little while with Victory House, right?
Victory Life House.
Victory Life House. That people need to understand. I mean, domestic violence was a big part of your life with this marriage, but never having been physically struck.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think people need to know that and understand, because this stuff comes in lots of different ways. Even like, what did we do last week, Craig? Talked about bullying, right?
Mm-hmm. We did.
And remember, what I want to actually rename it to is person abuse or personal abuse. I don't think bullying, we talked about, is really
It's
a fully
not even strong enough word.
Yeah. And so you were a victim in a sense of domestic violence, but never got struck.
Correct.
How is that? What does that mean to you? Or what can you say about that?
Well, it really got under my psyche, I would say. Have you ever heard of gaslighting?
I think I have. What is gaslighting? But
It's
I'm not
based
sure.
off of an old movie where the wife, she's made to feel like she's going crazy because the husband keeps turning down the lights, which were gas lit at the time, and he would deny it. So his purpose was to drive her nuts, and he was actually pretty good about doing it. So
Wow.
when you can take money out of someone's purse, and that person knows that the money is gone and she didn't do it, and you're so good at lying about not taking it that you start to believe
Okay.
things that are happening, that maybe I didn't really have that in there. So, but because you really want to believe, you want to trust, you want to have that relationship, you want to have the stewardship for a good marriage, and you're going to do everything you can to try to have that fulfilled.
Yeah. So gaslighting is kind of like just undermining your own knowledge or power of understanding yourself, and so you start believing things about yourself that aren't even really true. Like, well, maybe I did count that wrong, or maybe I did go to the grocery store at the wrong time, or I've never heard of the term gaslighting. So it kind of sounds like it's really undermining the.
And that's so, and there's just so many different things that can happen inside the relationship. So let's say you're moved to a very isolated location. Now you have no friends, you have no family. He's told you that the two neighbors that are there, these people are mean Christians, so you don't want to talk to them. They're just going to judge you. And the other people are just nuts. You have nothing to base it on except for his word. So you don't even leave your area. You don't leave your home. He never once took me to church. He never once prayed with me. Um, he abandoned me for 11 months while he left me to take care of my dad. And he moved to go find us all a place to live, and it took 11 months.
Right.
And it was still, I think his family was coming in and kind of forcing his hand to try to find something like, where's your wife? Oh, I left her in Florida while I'm living up here in a nice house with a friend, paying very little rent, working, and then just leaves his wife down in Florida.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. And not considering your needs or what's going on for you and not checking on you and
No, I
just
think
that kind of
he
stuff.
came to visit one time.
So when you say abandoned, man, that there's a lot of times we feel abandoned, but it's just a feeling, in a sense, like he's putting you in there and in a place and really kind of
Left.
more, straight left. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's easy to see physical violence, and that's what people think about, you know.
How do you justify leaving? How do
Right.
you, if you don't have never seen this before and you just want to believe and you want to hope and you want to pray that it's all going to work out and he's going to come back and be
Make it
honorable
right.
to his word,
Right.
because I believe in a person's word, but the actions never followed.
Yeah. On your website and reading your story, I mean, you talked about some of the things. I mean, for the audience, they want to maybe check it out on victorylifehouse.org.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? You know, to see where you were brave enough to share your story, and people that are involved in domestic violence can share their stories as well, like kind of a blog
Absolutely.
section, right?
Absolutely.
But I was reading it, and I'm kind of like, you kind of went on telling your story through. I think you did just a little bit just there, insofar as like, you know, what do you do if he? What happens when that happens, and what do you think when? And it just honestly kind of went on with a lot. I mean, how many?
I was trying to even condense it. You know, I mean, how do you consolidate 6 years where it's every single day of something going on that's undermining your mental capacity to deal with life?
Right.
I didn't even know how bad it was until I actually left, and it was in January of that year that my daughter asked me, "Are you afraid of him?" And I never said anything out loud, but I thought, I wonder if I am. So I started paying attention to that.
Okay.
And was able to then start to open up with my children. I have 2 kids, to share with them different things that were happening, try to get their opinion. What is your thought process and what I'm going through? Would you say this is a normal or just his personality and I need to get over it like I've been told, you know?
Trying to get objective information.
Right. So probably closer to June, I started realizing when I would have a conversation with just a basic, what would you like for dinner? My hands would be shaking. So I would hide them. I would put them down and just try to think, I don't need to be in fear of this person, but I am. He would put holes in the walls. He would throw things. He was very vocal. He's very loud. He's a large man.
Big intimidating
so
factor.
Very hugely intimidating, and he had this way of hovering. If someone was in the room, he would hover and almost have a growl to his voice, so that it was so low that nobody else could hear. But me.
You heard it.
Yes, and this is how he would talk to me. If he's on the other end of the house, he would holler my name. It was up to me to go to him. You know, he couldn't come find me. Just ask me a question.
Lots of nonverbal power play, kind of almost purposeful power play.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so. So by the time I think I shared a little bit maybe on my blog when I fell off the truck. Did I share about falling off the back of the
not
pickup?
sure. No, I'm not sure.
It was my job to. Okay, so for a couple 3 years, we're in this one home. We're actually only supposed to have been there for 6 months. So funny, his daughter decides that she can't live in the home that she's in. So let's all move in together. Well, in one day, he was able to find a house for us to move into. Well, she ended up moving in with us with her daughter. Now I'm responsible for helping her clean out her house and pack, clean out our house and pack, and clean up the new house that we're moving into while he works because of his shift schedule. So, and I didn't work. I didn't work for 6 years. So. And at first that was very nice.
You're right.
To not have to work, but then it almost became a prison to be there.
The home did.
Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, so I'm not even familiar with this house that we're moving into. I've never slept a night there, and it's dark. And I say, okay, I'm going to be home by 8, and I was only a couple minutes late, so I was very proud of myself that I only missed it by a couple minutes. But he'd already gone to bed. All the lights were completely out. It was pitch black outside. There were no lights on outside at all. And so we have a pickup truck, and I've emptied out the whole back end of the pickup truck. I have 3 boxes left. And I'm so tired. I've been doing this for 3 weeks straight. And I'm sitting on the back end of the pickup, and I moved this one box, and I kind of bounced a little bit. Well, my legs went underneath the tail
of the truck.
And
Right.
I hit the ground right on my side, and I broke something.
Okay.
And my first thought was, oh my God, he's going to be so mad. He's going to miss work. He's either going to be late for work or he's going to miss work because I'm broken.
Okay, like your body, your
My
leg
body
or your ankle, or
my body. I actually broke a house that I've never been in before. Got to the living room, found a chair, was so tired, but I called out to him. I didn't want to because I didn't want to wake him up. And he was angry. He came out and stood there. He just stood there staring at me. And I said, "Hey."
So let me just jump in and get this right. So you're now sitting in the chair,
Not
and
quite.
he. Oh, you said
I'm
that
on the floor.
You're on the floor, so
Yep.
you didn't actually make it in the chair.
Mm-mm.
And he comes up and
The stairs
now-
up.
Okay.
The stairs up. Like why am I on the floor? And I'm trying to explain to him, I'm sorry I woke you. I fell out of the truck. I think I broke something. I can't walk. Can you just help me get into this chair? He says, you're too young to have broken anything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, but I can't walk. So if you could just help me get into the chair, then you can go back to bed. So he helped me into the chair, and he just stood there. And eventually he did just go back to bed. Now when he wakes up in a few hours to get to work, now he's running late because he slept in, because he lost sleep, because earlier he had to help me.
Right.
So now he's really mad because he's having to run around because he's overslept. So as he was leaving, normally I would have his dinner prepared, but I had the forethought to buy pizza on my way home. So I said,
Okay.
I didn't have a chance to make your dinner, but I brought some pizza. It's over there on the on the kitchen counter if you want to grab that for your work. And that was pretty much. There was some other stuff that happened. I can't really talk about it. So he left, and I stayed in the chair. And the next morning, his daughter came home, and she called me an ambulance. I didn't want to call an ambulance because there was a sliding door, and the only way they could get in was to bust down the door because I couldn't walk.
Yeah. Right.
So I just sat in the chair all night. So I went to the hospital. Now I'm telling this part of the story. It's the very end of the story because this was such a pivotal point in my relationship and understanding him, that it's almost like this had to happen for me to get it, that he just didn't care about me.
Right.
So I'm at the hospital. Never been in an ambulance. That was kind of scary. And going to a hospital is kind of scary. And they do the x-rays, and yes, I had a broken pelvic bone. And his daughter is there with me. And she is on the phone with my husband. And I can hear him. He never once called me. He never talked to me on Facebook or chat or text or anything all night. But he was talking to his daughter. And he was surprised that I had actually broken something. And he said, well, do you think I need to be there? And I said, I did this kind of to say no. It's not up to her to tell him.
Motioning, you're like, no, cut.
Yes.
Don't tell him this.
That's up to him to decide if I'm important enough to come.
Right.
And so she didn't say anything. And she goes, well, Dad, I'm here. I can take her home. And he said, okay, I'll just go on to my next remodeling job and just get started there then. And my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. It's like I knew he just didn't care.
Right.
At all. Like, ever. Did he ever? So the next couple of weeks were interesting because I started getting angry. I'd probably tried everything I could possibly think of to make this relationship work and to be strong and happy. And
yeah, and MJ, how far into the marriage is this? Is this kind of towards the end?
Oh, this is absolutely towards the end.
Right.
This is in July of 2016. So we are at the kind of 5.5-year mark-ish. So, but this was it was pivotal because it started to get me to go to look at reality. How is this? And since I had felt like I had tried everything possible that I could think of to make it better, to make it more prosperous in our relationship, it seems like if I figured out something, it would the rules would change, and then all of a sudden I don't even know what I'm doing wrong anymore. So it took me till about October actually that I could walk again. I went through a wheelchair and crutches and the Willy Bob thing and the walkers. And
I'm curious, MJ, so while you're going through this recovery period, I mean, I'm kind of struck with the idea that here you are literally like in a chair all night with a broken pelvis and he found you on the floor. That's going to kind of clue somebody in that, well, we have a problem here and I need to help my wife to be able to stand and to function. So while you're going through all the recovery, I mean, I'm curious, are you getting the chicken soup and the encouragement and the comfort? What can I get you, honey? Is there anything else that you need, dear? I mean, are you getting really a lot of support?
I became completely useless to him.
Wow. Really?
Okay. I had no more, he had no more need for anything.
Yeah.
So I remember one time I was in the wheelchair and huge boxes like speakers and stuff we had a narrow hallway to the bathroom. We had the one bathroom and I had to go to the bathroom. And, but the boxes were in the way. He just put all these boxes in the way and he wanted to watch a movie and he plugs a movie in. He's got a pizza. He sits down. I'm sitting in the wheelchair and I'm thinking, man, I have to go to the bathroom. Those boxes are in the way. So he, just a bit into the movie, he says, why aren't you eating? And I said, well, told you that I had to go to the bathroom. So I don't really want to eat or drink anything else until I'm able to do that. So I'll just wait. Oh my goodness. That set him off. And it was like boxes. He punches, he pushes, he shoves, he moves really fast. He's angry that he has to get up and move the boxes out of the hallway so I can go to the bathroom in the wheelchair.
So you're not quite getting chicken soup.
Nope.
Right.
Don't remember any of that at all.
So this time period was really a very powerful one for you with the white pickup and a pretty serious bodily injury to kind of demonstrate for you what? Like, this is not okay anymore.
This is not okay. I do not deserve to be treated this way. I remember arguments we'd had, and finally I got up enough nerve to say, you know what, you don't have the right to talk to me that way. I've done nothing for you to use that tone of voice with me to be demeaning to me. And it took so much courage for me to say that to him.
An amazing amount of courage. And MJ, let me jump in to kind of help people understand for a moment how to manage these situations. Because you answered earlier, one of the things I wondered, does this happen all at once in the beginning? Or we know with domestic violence, it kind of starts small. It's not a lot, and then it builds and it grows, and it kind of just gets bigger and bigger. Many years ago, we learned about the cycle of violence and stuff. But last episode, we talked about bullying, like I think I mentioned on the show, or if that was before the mics came on, I don't know. But one of the things we looked at with that is a very simple 3-step process to kind of go through dealing with any conflict. You simply tell the person stop doing what they're doing, you back off and you give them space, and then you get objective help from other people, maybe an authority figure or not, to deal with the conflict. So, and we made a big point on that show, taking a lot of time to demonstrate like how hard it is to say that. And you just said that. It essentially took 6 years
Yep.
to get to the point of saying stop.
Yeah, I had to get
Stop.
mad. I had to like understand that just wasn't right, and I wasn't gonna put up with it anymore. So my coping mechanisms kicked in were to basically shut down, to get angry. I didn't. Well, I didn't want to. I still had hope.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the back burner because now I was in like a self-protective mode of this isn't right, and as soon as I'm healed, something's got to change. And I did talk to him, and because I was angry for 2 weeks, and after I fell, and I was thinking back over the last 6 years of our relationship, and everything I thought of made me angrier that I'd waited that long, that all this had happened, and none of it was ever necessary. None of it had to happen. I still don't understand why it did, and so the white truck thing was that one of his job was to.
Well, let's go to there at the end and understanding how powerful later on
Yeah.
this was, because I know that's where your story kind of ended to
Yep.
sort of realize for you. But I think one of the things I'd like for people in that listening to sort of understand is that this idea of there's some signs that you look for in yourself, and I've heard you talk about them so courageously tonight about shaking in fear and not realizing that you're fearful, but walking on eggshells.
Absolutely.
and having a complete inability to get real basic needs met, and fearful of asking for
What am I going to do wrong next?
yeah, I mean, these are some things that I think people are experiencing, and it is dramatic to kind of know and understand when somebody's hit, that maybe that's not right. But for many women and people that are a victim of domestic violence, they'll get hit, but that'll get rationalized away too. And so maybe it was just a little hit, not a really bad hit. I didn't even get bruised.
And
Or
he says, I love you. I won't ever do it again. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
flowers and reconciliation, and you might even say, hey, I was wrong for doing that. I bit you and I shouldn't do that. Or I flicked you in anger. Maybe it's not even a baseball bat. It's these things are going on, and it's so hard to stand in and stand up to say
Yeah.
stop.
I had this huge bruise, as you can imagine, on my hip and upper thigh, and his daughter showed it to him as we were walking past one time. I think I was on the walker at this point, and he goes, "Oh, she just bruises easily."
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah.
That-
Right. And so I think part of what we want to do is to help people kind of understand what do you do in these situations and the power of it. Because again, a lot of people probably that aren't a part of domestic violence are going to ask, why don't you just say no? Like, what stops you in the moment with a simple situation to just speak up? Why is it so debilitating in an emotional experience there?
I think when someone says they love you and the actions don't match, it's confusing. We want to believe the words, but the actions are confusing, and it
Mixed
could
with
be
some positive actions, right? Sometimes.
Yes. Yep. So you kind of cling to those.
Right.
So as your reality, because it's a nicer reality than the reality that you're actually living with. There's if like I didn't work for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
What's my skill level now to go out there? I was a secretary, so probably I was on XP, and by then Windows 2010, or 12 or whatever came out, but I didn't know. I didn't know anymore. I didn't even know what a remote assistant was. We didn't have internet. We had a hotspot. I could use his phone when he got home. So I was very isolated. We had no TV. There's no cable out where we were. No internet service.
Yeah, and it sounds like really you're in a bad Lifetime movie of. I'm just picturing this isolated place where you're saying right now you don't even really have the internet if he's not providing a hotspot.
Oh.
Like,
I could use his phone, when he would come home, and then I could get on. But he went to bed like around 7, and he would be up around 1 to get ready for work. So I had that amount of time. I could be on the internet and see what's going on in the world, kind of a thing. And I wasn't allowed to go in before, well, maybe by 11 I could go in because he didn't want me to wake him up. So I would just end up staying awake and make his dinner and then just go to bed when he left. So I'd go to bed around 2.
Right.
So I wouldn't have to, one less hassle for me to get him angry, or whatever with me.
It just sounds like a tremendous amount of fear. And fear is a big part of why we're not saying no and speaking up and talking.
Well, yeah, too, and I've done research, and so many women end up dying on the way out the door. So there's legitimate fear.
Right.
So
it's dangerous.
There's a religious factor. There's a lot of Christians who say, you know what, you're supposed to be married to this person, and this is what they'll find scripture to back up their reasoning as to why you need to stay. And I'm a Christian, and I'm a believer, and Jesus is Lord. I don't remember seeing anything in there that says it's okay for him to abuse me.
Absolutely not.
So I left, and I got a divorce, and I will be wiser.
And thank God for it. Yeah.
When that happens, I do have some statistics here. If I can share this, you want to do this later?
Absolutely, yeah. What do you see? Because again, people need to know, in a large way, how common this stuff is, believe it or not.
And it is common. My understanding is three women died today just from the trauma that they've sustained.
Like today?
Today, every day.
Oh, gotcha.
3 women will die from their attacks.
Wow.
So these are actually old statistics. 1 in 3 female murder victims are killed by an intimate partner. Mm-hmm. 1 in 3 of them.
That's a lot.
That was in 2008.
Yeah, we talked about homicidal and suicidal ideations, and a lot of what we know about homicide is absolutely with domestic violence.
A typical day for the domestic violence hotlines across the nation, they received 20,000 calls, and that was done in 2014. 72% of all murder-suicides are perpetrated by intimate partners. That was in 2012. 94% of those victims are females. Now, in the workplace, 21 to 60% lose their jobs. Women lose their jobs just from the trauma that they've been through. Between 2003 and 2008, 142 women, might have been more than that, might have been 142,000, were murdered in their workplace by former or current intimate partners. That was in 2011. And it's estimated to cost the U.S. economy between 5.8 to 12.6 billion annually. Yeah,
and the emotional costs are way beyond any kind of 5, 10, 20 billion dollars that you got, going on, because it just it's disabling and
impacts the children.
Right.
They see it, and then they grow up with that. That must be normal. I've met a lot of men who've gone through it when they were children, and they turned out actually wonderful, and they're advocates for women. Yeah. And so that's can happen positively too.
Yeah, well, it is something, to have hope in people that are struggling in really destructive relationships like this, because you do get a freedom date.
Yeah.
When you get through.
But you have to purpose it. I had to purpose it in my heart that even though I had hope that he would change, even the day I was leaving and packing, and while he was at work, that he would call me and be a completely different person.
Yeah.
And just love me and just like care. And that just didn't ever happen. So I don't know where we were going.
Yeah, no, where we were going is how it spider webs out. It does. It affects the individual person who's doing criminal acts in a dramatic way, and the person who's receiving those as the victim, or what word is better, object person. The kids, the parents of both people, the extended family members, the community members, neighborhoods. I mean, this is a big topic that we're talking about, man.
Yep.
Yeah. and you recover. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about recovery, right? A little happier topic, Craig.
Yes.
Because we can
Yay.
recover from this stuff.
It's amazing how strong our emotions are when we go back to a memory, and that emotion can draw you back into that moment in time.
And that's where I wanted to go to understand how to manage that. And we're going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder sometime on the show, and we've talked about trauma and elevated states already in our storylines so far, because it's real, isn't it? And I think you were kind of surprised when I read your story about, wait a minute, like I have PTSD.
Right.
This is still in me, even though, I'm out of it.
I kind of poo-pooed it. Like, oh, why can't people just get over it? Move
doesn't affect
on.
me anymore. I'm out. I'm done. Right? Yeah.
So I'm driving down 85, and this mail truck is behind me, big box truck, white, and that's what he used to drive. That was his career, and I knew it was him. Absolutely, 100%. I was gonna die. He was gonna hit me, just rear end me, and just push me over the edge there.
Right.
And
you felt that.
Yeah. And that truck just went around me because it was just a normal Charlotte driver just going, full speed ahead.
Right.
But I was like, man, wow. And like that wasn't enough. So at church, when I first got there, like I was saying, I don't know if did I mention this earlier? So when I got to...
I think you did before the mics were on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I arrived on a Friday. I went to church on Sunday just to be in church, because I hadn't been in church in so long, and I wanted to smell it and hear it and feel it and see the people and the children, the laughter, and
yeah, you probably wanted to connect with people.
I don't know. I needed to be in the environment. I was almost like if I could just be a flower on the wall, I just wanted to be there and be in that environment. So what I was amazed to find out was when someone asked me what my name was, and I could not tell them. Now, I grew up, my family would call me...
Couldn't tell them your name.
Could not tell them my name because I started stuttering. And I was in such fear that if I said my name out loud, he would hear me, wherever he was, and appear out of thin air. And at the time, I didn't realize how neurotic that was.
Right.
But that was my fear, so I couldn't say. And I didn't even like to write my name. I changed it back to my maiden name when they asked me, because I didn't want him to even feel where I was, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, that's
a little bizarre. So I ended up going with my initials. It's my nickname is MJ. Is how I grew up. So I just went back to that. It's easier to say. It's like Michael Jordan. I'm just a little shorter.
So, MJ, this experience in the church was after the divorce?
No, that was about 3 days after I left him for the...
Oh, okay.
So it's back in October 2016. Gotcha. And then the truck thing probably happened... well, I hadn't driven. He sold my car. I had a car when we first got married, and within 3 months, that was gone. I never had another vehicle. So I was allowed to drive the vehicles, but there was always seemed to be something wrong with that particular vehicle. So just beware, that thing. So you just don't even bother driving anymore. So
right.
It took me a while to get a car, but that was okay. I have some really great God testimonies how everything has worked out. But I'm sorry, I don't remember.
No, we're talking about recovery now a little bit and moving out of it, and God is a big part of that for you.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. In fact, it was December of 2016, and my daughter comes to me and says, "Mom, we bought a house, and there's not enough room for you. We're kind of downsizing." So you're going to need to find your own place. Now, I hadn't hardly left her house, and Charlotte is huge for me because I'm a small town mountain girl. So, and I didn't know anything about the area. And so I had to find a job. I had to find a place to live, and I had to get a car in 2 weeks. And I said,
that sounds challenging.
God, I can't do this. You're going to have to do this for me. So at the time, I was studying for a licensure in life and health insurance, and I had a couple weeks to get that.
Okay.
So I studied really hard for that. It's kind of like passing the bar exam for me. But I ended up passing it, and I walk out of the testing area on Independence. There's 50 car dealers on that
Oh gosh,
strip.
yes.
So I'll open the door, and the Holy Spirit says, "Go to CarMax." And I laugh, and I say, "Why in the world would nobody would give me a loan? Why in the world would I go there?"
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear anything, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go to CarMax." I drove over there, my daughter's car, and I said, "Hey," to my sales agent, "this is what I want. I want a Honda or a Toyota with less than 100,000 miles. I want brand new tires and cruise control, and if it's a 5-speed or whatever, doesn't matter because I can drive that. Oh, and I don't have a job."
Right.
And he goes, "It's not a problem. We don't look at your employment anymore. If you have good credit, we feel like you can pay your bills." And I said, "I have been paying on a student loan for 100 years. If you could just look that up, look me up, see what my credit score is."
Gotcha.
And he goes, "Well, let's see here. I've got a 2007 Honda Civic, 80,000 miles, brand new tires, cruise control, and it's a 5-speed. I can have it here in 2 weeks."
Exactly
Like,
2 weeks.
Okay, that's my car. And I went home, and my daughter. So because I passed the test, I also got the job, which started in 2 weeks. Now I have to find an apartment. And my daughter says, "Ask my realtor." I called the realtor. 2 days later, we have the place where I'm still at, and they didn't even ask for a down payment. And I was in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So I have one God testimony after another.
Yeah, and it's funny how those things kind of really do piece together, and you start reaching out, and you start finding out that there's people out there that will respond to be there, and you just kind of find that it's there. So I guess what I want to ask you is, how do you start looking? How do you find what's really there around you to help? Like, how does a person in a domestic violence situation, find you?
Aw.
MJ, who is there ready to help.
I'm almost there ready to help. I do have Victory Life House. We are 501c3. We don't have the house yet, and I'm still working on the field. I'm laying the field, the groundwork for policies and procedures, and what all that looks like.
And I guess I'm talking about just like, what would they see? What are they looking for? I mean, if you're not able to reach out because the fear has got you, how and what are you looking for? Yeah.
Okay, so like when I left, it was like I determined it in my heart that I had to get out, that I was leaving, and it was purposeful. I was not going back. So I find my daughter. I had to get with my daughter. So,
first catch.
Just get me out of here.
Yeah.
I don't have a car.
Yeah.
So she had to come get me. So you find a friend, you find a safe haven, you find a church, you find a family member who can just sponsor you for a little while until you can relax. And you really have to get out of that fear mindset, because that's paralyzing.
Paralyzing is the word, right?
Yep. You can't function. So you have to be able to move. Try to get a perspective of where you're at in that safe zone. Get that perspective of, I'm out of that bad environment. I can move forward now, and I don't have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing says you have to go back.
So you're finding a sparkle in the eye of a neighbor, a daughter, a cousin, a priest, someone at work, if you're working, being able to kind of reach out and just say, hey, I'm struggling for a moment, and I want to talk to you for a second, right?
There's also National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-7233. Wonderful information on there.
And we'll have that on show notes at our website for sure. Yeah.
They can totally, it's like, and they will connect you with, like, I had a woman call me the other day through a friend who found out what I was doing, and she'd been battered with a baseball bat, and several thousands of dollars of damage, and she's still paying on, and she's working, but she doesn't want to be in that job anymore.
Yeah.
She wants to be away from even the county that
Right.
she's in and go completely somewhere hours away.
And I'm sure that feels safer.
Absolutely. And she has a child. So where do you go? And so I gave her 14 pages of different places that
Right.
she could go in that particular county that she was looking at, and just said, hey, just go through here and see what works best for you and your family.
And nowadays, you can kind of really use Google, even if you only have a hotspot during a certain period of
Absolutely.
time, right?
Absolutely.
And you Google what? Domestic violence shelters. That would be a good hit. Or, I mean, what can people
I would
use that for?
The problem with that is that sometimes the perpetrator will monitor your computer.
Well, that's true,
history.
right? Yeah.
So you have to know how to clear it, or use
Okay.
someone else's computer, do it at work.
Because above all, I learned in my travels, I did learn somebody said something that totally stuck with me. It really is safety above all else, right?
Yep.
It is above all other concerns. You do need to be safe. And so a little bit ago was even some statistics you talked about. You really need to make sure that you're leaving, you're clear, but let's be smart about it.
Yep. Don't tell him.
Right.
Don't tell friends. Don't tell
Right.
anybody else. Don't stay in communication with anyone who knows him. You just leave it. You're gonna have to leave it behind, and you reconnect in the future if you get to that point that you're trusting that they're not going to tell where you are. He doesn't need to know your address.
So you're carefully telling people that you have developed trust with and feel safe with, a neighbor, a daughter, or somebody,
Absolutely.
right? So there has to be a level of trust, because I could just hear somebody in the audience listening. Well, wait a minute, you said I should tell somebody that I tell somebody. Now you're saying not tell somebody. So clear that up.
Tell someone that you trust that that they won't be sharing all of your personal information. If they know that you're leaving on Saturday, that they're not going to tell them that you're leaving on Saturday. Figure out what it is that's important enough for you to take. Find your important papers, marriage licenses and driver's licenses, anything, birth certificates, immunizations, anything for your children, medicines. If you can get a truckload up there and nobody will see you loading up a U-Haul.
Yeah, a little
While
cash.
he's at work.
Right.
Get some help. Get some people to help you move out.
And before you begin taking those steps, I presume you can, you call a hotline, you kind of get some guidance, because that's a lot. I mean, you're describing like a whole, whoa, how do I do that?
It's an art, because you also don't want him to know what you're doing.
Right.
And you don't want to get caught, and you don't, because you're in fear.
Yeah. Of your life at many
of your
instances.
life, and your imagination runs wild. What if he finds out? What is he going to be like? You know what he's been like up to this point. That might set him off completely.
Yeah. And where did you go when you left?
My daughter's house.
Right.
3 hours away.
3 hours away to your daughter's house.
Yep.
Yeah. And kind of began building from there.
Yep.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
I love it. I mean, MJ, you're amazing. I mean, I wish we need to get Facebook Live. You can see this lady sitting here. It's just, I mean, honestly, it almost brings a tear to my eye to know the power of what you're describing that you've done, and the deeds and service that you give, letting people know what they can do in this. I mean, you rock. You just straight rock. What happens when you get to domestic violence shelter? I mean, what do we do for people to partner alongside them when they're in a safe place?
I don't understand the question.
So, okay, you get to your daughter's house, or you get to a domestic violence shelter. They come into Victory Life House, and they've talked with you. They've gotten there. What happens for people to kind of understand a little bit at that point?
They're all different. They're all run differently. They all have different time schedules. How long you can be there? How long is it? A one-night stay? Is it a 6-month stay? Are you going to be going through life skills or training on any level? Are you going to be going through therapy? Are you going to be going back to church? Do you need a job? What do you need? What are your needs? It's also individual.
And you're there to help them.
And you're just, I'm basically a catalyst. I'm like, we're going to have programs set up.
I like that. And
we're going to be working with people in the community. We're going to be job creating. So it's a big vision, but I know it's going to happen because I've seen it. And I know it's going to be beautiful. So
I love the way you just put that. I love the way you just put that in the saying of you're walking alongside with people, and helping them to be a catalyst into really whatever individualized you need. The word catalyst is I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Some of them may not even know what they know anymore, a skill set or artistry.
Mm-hmm.
Can they play music? Have they ever had an opportunity to do anything? And so to be able to introduce them to professionals, how to cook, how to clean, how to do anything.
Recover themselves with their skills and what they've known and what they do.
Relearn who they are.
Relearn who they are with the emotional process. Yeah.
Yep.
A catalyst to all sorts of very hopeful realities for people that are coming on to the other side of this. It really does work. People, what can you tell people about recovery and the truth of recovery, that fear can really be dealt with and being well now moving forward?
Well, from me, my biblical perspective, it took me 1 year and 9 months to get out of actual fear, real fear, because it was hindering me from moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a vision that God was actually bigger than my fears, and everything just dissipated. My fear, you could almost feel it. It just like turned into dust, because I'm not alone. I'm not alone spiritually or physically anymore, and mentally, and just so much stronger than I was before. And at the same time, I'll be honest, the other day someone said, "Hey, Marge, come here a minute." And my first question was, as I was standing up, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Mm-hmm. So there's still stuff in there that
today.
Yeah. So It's not like you flip a switch and everything's going to be peachy.
Right.
You do have to work at it, but you have to be purposeful. Where do I want to be from now? Do I ever want to have this kind of relationship again? What are the warning signs? You start dating, you give it months before you start even going out. Heal first, get stronger first before you start interacting with men. People just jump into one relationship after another, I think, without realizing they might have been part of the problem.
And Craig, I think you were talking about that a little bit, which is something to cover. We know that in domestic violence issues, people do tend to get back into the same situation and, get out of one and get into another and get out of that and get into another. And it's kind of like, I don't know, why does that happen? Was that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I happen to know somebody who continuously gets into new relationships with guys that abuse her. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people in a row this person has dated who have been physically violent to this woman.
So she doesn't know her value. She doesn't know that she has worth, or that she's worth being loved. And I think if we could get men, the thing is, the men, if the men would stop beating women, or maybe they're intimidated by women or something, but I wouldn't have a house if it weren't for the men abusing the women. And I don't know if men just need to figure out how to learn to love, how to receive love, and to know that they're of value and that they have worth in God's eyes. So if they can just receive that love, so they can give it, because you can't give away what you don't have, right?
Right. And, this is why I don't like the term bullying, which is a form of abuse, because we really focus on crashing on the bully, and we don't really focus on helping the little child learn how to grow and mature and be a strong person with assertiveness and saying no. So we need, you could say, it sounds a little, I don't know, weird, but, love helps both sides.
Absolutely.
Love helps both sides, and learning how to, what is the song, Whitney Houston, learn how to love yourself. I loved that growing up when I was a kid. It helped me, to kind of get comfortable with yourself, because people that are doing criminal acts of violence, emotionally, physically, cyberly, economically, physically, I said, so many different ways that this happens, by the way, to get that in there, that insecurity is a big piece of it. Fear as well is running. In this case, we're talking about it being a male perpetrating violence on a female. I think the opposite runs true too. We know now that men can be in a bad situation too.
Yep.
And so it isn't just a male offending on a female. There are women that go through being emotionally violent to the guy.
Right.
Yeah. And so love really kind of helps on both sides to really strengthen yourself so that you don't fall, Craig, back into, like you said, somebody that way that, because if you don't fix that inside self.
That's right. You just kind of keep repeating the patterns.
Yeah. And the violent cycles, really, again, start small with that new relationship, second relationships, small deal, and then it builds and grows. And oh my God, here I am again.
Chemical abuse can come in, the opiates and whatnot, so that they can cope, like a coping mechanism. Since everything else isn't working, let me try this. See if this works.
Yeah. So as you've been in recovery after Freedom Date and kind of seeing this, have you seen much? I allude to sort of the opposite gender reality in this. Have you come across much of that and how that works with men who may be in a really scary, stuck spot themselves, not knowing what to do? Have you seen much of that in your travels yet?
No.
Because I wonder how much of an untapped reality that is for
because
people.
Women don't even talk about it. So, you look at these statistics even, and I think how many of those people just don't even tell anybody, or they don't have a restraining order, so you don't even know about them. They just dealt with it. Like, I didn't tell anybody. I told my attorney, but I'm not on any record anywhere. I'm not on any numbers.
And I don't know, Craig, what dude is going to say, oh my God, I need a peace bond and I need police help and I need,
my wife is beating me up, right?
When literally you're being pinched and you're being hit and you're being, struck even because, a dude's not, what is the dude going to do there?
Right.
That's a very good point. That's right.
We're talking about it. One of the things, oh my gosh, I didn't even think I said it on my opening. The emotional human experience, let's figure this thing out together is what we say on this show because, we want to talk about it.
Yeah, need to talk about it. It's actually therapeutic to get it out there. That's why I started this blog, and I thought, let me just share my story. It's not fair for me to just put it out there and expect people to write about their stories when I haven't even done mine. So I wrote just a blip of information on mine, hoping that other women will just come on there and share. You don't have to put your name. You just say maybe what town you're in or whatever you're comfortable with as far as...
Where do they find that again?
You can just go on my website. It's victorylife-house.org, and there's a place on the front page, and it says, what's your story? It's at the bottom.
Yeah, and we're going to partner with you on our show notes and our website through therapisteyes.com. You can find that there and everything too. Awesome. Listen, we on this show, Craig, we haven't really talked about money and collecting money. We really made a point with Aaron Clark, and his family who is still kind of in need with the GoFundMe account. But this is the second time that we're going to do that. I mean, you've got a new passion project that's coming out in Gaston County. And you have some fundraisers that are in place.
Yeah,
how about you tell us about what's going on with that?
Okay, sure. Thank you. So this Sunday, actually, Veterans Day, November 11th, we're having a shag dance, which is done to Carolina beach music. It's oldie tunes like the Beach Boys, I guess. And,
right. Shagging.
Van Morrison and this kind of music. So simple of a dance, and it's similar to swing. You just do it in a different direction.
I've heard of it, and it sounds extremely fun.
It's very fun. It's going to be at Sugar Creek Brewing Company, which is a very fun venue. And if you're a veteran, I will pay for your first brew, your first microbrew.
All right.
And it's strictly the ticket price is the fundraiser. I didn't want to, feel anyone. I don't even like fundraisers, right? So I've got 3 of them coming up. I wanted it to make it very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got Hall of Fame instructors coming. I've got an SOS DJ, and I'm gonna throw out some catered treats. And it's $25. You can find me on Eventbrite as well. And then let's see what else. So have you ever heard of DeCarlo?
Heard DeCarlo's Pizza.
Okay, well,
love that from my hometown of West Virginia. Shout out.
Do you remember Boston?
I do not.
The band, classic rock?
Oh, of course, yes, Boston, yeah.
Okay. So Tommy DeCarlo is the lead singer for Boston.
Oh, okay.
And he's giving us a benefit concert December 16. And the opening band is Dog Ear. So it's just a classic rock out night. So we're going to do that at the Rabbit Hole. Tickets are still $20 and then go to $25 and then $30 at the door. So, again, no other obligation to feel like you have to pay any more money.
Craig, we might need to have to go see the lead singer of Boston.
That'd be cool.
That would be fun.
He rocks. He is so awesome.
That's pretty neat. Do you have, MJ, any direct like a GoFundMe account or a donation thing set up on your website or anything that people could tap in for that in that way?
I do. You can. There's a donate button. You can go straight on there and donate.
Okay, yeah. And I know it's weird, and I don't sense you're too uncomfortable about it, but talking about money is important because it does take money to open up a house and run these things and kind of get going, and you're kind of courageously coming out and sharing us about domestic violence and helping women, and I have no doubt in my mind meeting you today that you're going to be helping an amazing amount of women.
Awesome.
Tell us a little more about Victory Life House. I think you started touching on that a minute ago, but what is it? Is it going to be a physical location, or
it will
give us some details on that?
It will be a physical location. I don't know where yet. So what will happen is wherever my plan is currently wherever I'm at, I will receive girls from outside the county as one more layer of protection. And it's just going to grow. I'm going to be creating jobs. So I'm also working with some consultants, some nonprofit consultants who are helping me expand the vision a little because I was very kind of narrow. Like I was going to do everything all by myself, right? Like a person can actually run it or a nonprofit organization plus be on the ground and helping the girls and live there and and do the fundraising and do the payroll and and help each girl. But I'm not actually clinically qualified. I don't feel like I can. Because I've not been physically abused and I've never been addicted to anything, that there's just some things I can't handle. So I'm going to have professionals and they're going to be on staff. So
you are so meeting you here clear to me, clinically qualified, medically qualified, spiritually qualified, qualified in so many ways to be the catalyst to healing, health, and recovery. If I just might, Craig, be so bombastic to say so.
Thank you.
Is there anything, just to put you on the spot in summary, that you might like to say to sum up a sense of hope or caring and love to the person who's listening and thinking, wow, I need to take some action for myself?
There are beautiful, beautiful people out there who just want to help. They just want to come alongside of you and just build you up and encourage you and edify you and just bring you into the fold. And do not think for one moment that you're a burden even. They are there for you. They want to help you and they won't know unless you tell them. And so you have to be very honest. You have to trust. You have to learn to trust someone. So find that person and just latch on and man, I'm going to cry because
yeah. Absolutely.
You're going to do okay. It's going to be okay.
Absolutely. Craig, you're going to take us out of here. But before we do, so that they can hear it on the mic, you can give me a big fat high five, all right? Absolutely. Good job.
That's good stuff. MJ, we appreciate you coming tonight and sharing your story.
It's been
really an honor having you here with us. And so we wrapping it up, Chris?
Yes,
done?
absolutely.
Okay, just a couple items to cover. We really appreciate you guys who are out there listening. Chris and I are watching our download numbers and go up, and we are grateful for every listener. Welcome Canada, Australia. We're seeing downloads there now too, which is kind of exciting. If you're not on our email list, if you go to our website, throughitherapisteyes.com, and get on that email list, that would be fantastic. That's a good way for us to keep in touch with our listeners. And just send updates. We're not going to send spam or any kind of offers or anything like that, but just to give updates about the show and those kind of things. If you are listening, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And also, if you like the content, leave us a 5-star review. And that'll help us get the word out to others who are searching for the kind of content that we're delivering. Once again, our website is throughitherapisteyes.com. You can go to the Contact Us link there and send Chris an anonymous email if you wish. Or you can fill in your name and email address and he will get back to you. And you can also find links to our Facebook and Instagram out there too on the website. And I think that pretty much covers it, guys.
I believe we are getting ready to deal with the little kiddos next time if it works out right with love and logic parenting stuff. Looking forward to that. MJ, thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.